out, but we're back on here. This is still Arnold's Cove Transgender Day of Remembrance. It is November 19th, around 6:42 a.m. Now it's freezing cold and windy. Hope you can hear me. I'm Jennifer McCreath. Going to read a couple brief statements from some key political figures who played a role in fighting for transgender rights, provincially and nationally. I did reach out to all political parties and all municipal politicians, so the option has been there. I've received some statements. I'm going to read first of all Jack Harris, who represents the federal NDP, riding with St. John's East. He says, as MP for St. John's East, I'd like to join in support of International Tidor to commemorate those lost to violence and suicide and to recognize the importance of their lives. It's a sad reflection of the failure to understand and appreciate the value of humanity. Level of equality and non-discrimination, bring it in to these sad and meaningless losses of life. And we got one from Jerry Rogers, representing the provincial NDP. We're excited that the government is introducing a bill to amend our Human Rights Act to include gender identity and gender expression. This is a result of a lot of hard work from the community, and I'm proud to have been a part of this work. Hopefully by Thursday we'll be debating this in the House. In the next few weeks we'll have a new bill, or a new act. Congratulations to everyone. Let's celebrate the hard work and then move on into the next stage of making sure that the trans folk get better quality health care that they need. I applaud the incredible work Jennifer McCreath has done and her persistence that the issues are important and that the views of trans folks are always heard. Jerry Rogers. Now the Coalition of Independent MHAs, Dale Kirby and Chris Mitchellmore, have submitted a note as well. On this Tidor, we ask to recall the words of Martin Luther King. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. End quote. As we remember those who've lost their lives to anti-trans violence, remember too that love can and will overcome hate. On this day, we recommit ourselves to working to achieve equality, fairness, and dignity for all trans people. Now, for the third year in a row, I'm going to take an excerpt of a speech written by Kristen Malloy, the first ever openly trans person to seek political office at the federal level in Canada, when she did so 2 years ago in suburban Toronto. And as a failed political candidate myself, I can utter the same words, perhaps. I ran not because I'm trans, but because I wanted to stand up for something I believed in. Never accept limitations imposed on us by others. Increased visibility in mainstream society brings better understanding, more acceptance, and will hopefully lead to the end of transphobia. Now, we are going to commemorate those who have lost their lives in the past 12 months. I don't think we can get a candle lit in this wind. We do have a flashlight though. Let's shine a flashlight.
We have a windproof lighter.
Should we try to light a candle? I don't know if that'll...
I've got a windproof lighter.
Bear with us. We're going to try to light a candle in this wind.
This is when Candle in the Wind starts playing.
Try to get the camera back on me for a second. Still, the sun's just starting to come up here. Get the camera.
Hold on. Do it this way behind. It's lit, but it won't stay lit.
See it? Zoom in on that. It was lit. We tried. Sarah back the camera. You retain the flashlight. I'll go through the motions of this here. It's difficult to have to read these names out, and some of the descriptions are quite graphic, but I think it's important for us to realize that human beings all over the world face unnecessary death due to extreme level of hate, barbaric torture, and violence. Natalia Sotero died of a gunshot wound in Brazil, age 20. Rafael da Silva Tavares, 6 gunshots to the head, 21 years of age in Brazil. Valeria, beaten to death with a stick in Brazil, age 30. Unknown woman was stoned and had her skull crushed. Brazil. Another one from Brazil, Joelas dos Santos, 22-year-old trans woman. Gunshot to the left breast. Died. Wagner Paula Rodriguez, age 42, was stoned to death in Brazil. We had an unidentified woman. Severe head trauma, body thrown under a truck. Also in Brazil. Gunshot wound to the head of an unidentified trans woman in Brazil. Tavia Nascimento Valadares, 20-year-old. Gunshot to the head. Also in Brazil. We've got an unidentified 13-year-old trans person who was hung to death in Brazil. 26-year-old Arnold Fatosa Souza. He was beaten to death, age 26. Fabio de la Conceição Machado, stoned to death in Brazil, age 26. Jorge Luciano Soares de Oliveira, blow to the head, 38 years old, Brazil. There's a lot of problems in Brazil, obviously. Unidentified woman shot to the head and leg in Brazil. Rosa Fernando Dominguez, she was stabbed with a knife in the eye and the neck. She died, age 36. A couple more unidentified people shot. Several more in Brazil. We've got someone who was beheaded and burned with their trans partner in the home. Del Valle Jose Alves Pereira, 37 years old. Nova Gama, Brazil. Nicole Galitsua, 20 years old, shot dead, Brazil. Monica Lewinsky, 38 years old, shot to the head in Brazil. Fernandez Quiroz was beaten to death in Brazil. Angel Francisco Martinez Gonzalez was beaten and shot in Mexico. Ashley Sinclair was beaten and shot in the head in Orlando, Florida. Kelly Young shot dead, Baltimore, Maryland. Palmeria Garcia, 37 years old, partially scalped, tortured, lacerations to the face in Venezuela. We have an unidentified strangulation in Turkey. Naomi Estrada, 19-year-old, shot to the head in Mexico. Someone known as Karen was stabbed and beheaded in Mexico. Tiffany Holder was 19 years old, stabbed to death in Guyana. Adan Emilar Iglesias, shot to the head, 20 years old, in Honduras. Daniel Mendoza Ricardo Macias, multiple stab wounds, 23 years old, Mexico. Dominique Newburn, 31 years old, Fontana, California, multiple stab wounds. Islan Nettles, blunt force trauma, Harlem, New York. 21 years old. Dwayne Jones, beaten and stabbed, shot, and run over by a car. 16 years old. Montego Bay, Jamaica. Semia Dove, multiple stab wounds, tied with a rope to a block of concrete, thrown in the pond. 23 years old, Cleveland, Ohio, United States of America. I remember this one well. The media was very disrespectful as well. Renata Espinoza Reyes, she was shot in Mexico, 23 years old. Jason Ramirez Acosta, 22 years old, stabbed in the face, chest, and abdomen, Colombia. Erica Morgan, 26 years old, New Jersey, stabbed. Mylene, bludgeoned to death with a hammer in France, age 42. Evan Young was beaten up with fists and other objects, choked with a chain, had a bag taped over his head, shot, set on fire, and thrown into a dumpster. Milwaukee, Wisconsin, age 22. Artigas Coniel Madden, 37 years old, Savannah, Texas, shot in the neck. Dora Ozer, 24 years old, stabbed to death in Turkey. Unknown gunshot in Brazil. Gunshot in Brazil, 27 years old. Head trauma, beaten with sticks, 22-year-old Brunette Nascimento Chiares, Brazil. We're almost there. Several unknown names. Houston, Texas, found floating in a gully. Here's one strangled, body dumped in a pasture, Brazil. Stabbing in the neck, Brazil. Thrown naked from a bridge in Mexico, Mexico City. 31-year-old Esron Warana, stabbed, hands and legs were tied with a string, face was covered with plastic, Malaysia. Stabbing in Turkey, gunshot wounds in Brazil. Diamond Williams, age 31, dismembered, body parts thrown into a field, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Terry Golston was shot dead in Shreveport, Louisiana. Jock Maurice McKinney, aka Valerie, Shreveport, Louisiana. Dickie Othman, hands and legs bound, mouth stuffed with a piece of cloth, Malaysia. Fatima Woods, age 53, stabbed in the torso, Rochester, New York. Melanie Smith, age 28, beaten to death, Baldwin Park, California. Maya Castro da Silva, 23, body dumped in advance of decomposition state, Brazil. Four more unknowns. One's in Detroit, Michigan, body dumped in the trash can. Someone was stabbed and found dumped in a stream, Brazil. Multiple gunshot wounds, unidentified person. Amiri White, age 22, multiple gunshot wounds, Richmond, Virginia. I'm sure there are many more that didn't make this list. So as you can see, there's a lot of graphic, violent people being killed at young ages. The majority are people of color, and as you can see, it's happening all over the world, including right here in North America. Let's make sure they did not die in vain, and let's all work hard to make this world a better place for all. Thank you everyone for attending